This is Ceci Pa a Star Trek, where we are watching The Orville, Seth MacFarlane's futuristic, laid-back, comedic take on Star Trek. Today we're watching Cupid's Arrow. I'm VanVelding.
I'm SkilTao. In this episode, the forensic archaeologist who broke up Ed and Kelly's marriage returns. When his carefree romances results in a war breaking out, he learns a valuable lesson.
It kind of reminds me of the original series episode Elan of Troyes, where they're transporting a diplomat and she has tears that makes Captain Kirk fall in love with her.
Oh, right, the compulsion there. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
In Star Trek, my first thought was for Next Generation, Lonely Among Us, with the delegates who literally want to cook and eat each other.
Yeah. My next thought was Deep Space Nine had an episode called Fascination, where Loxana Troi, Counselor Troy's mom, has like an Olds disease, and she uses her telepathic abilities to make people on the station crazy horny. It's like a horny field on the station.
It's I am surprised this is a recurring theme in Star Trek. Another one from the Next Generation is Man of the People, where a diplomat who is responsible for getting two warring peoples together uses a similar effect on Deanna Troi.
Yeah.
But where Man of the People focuses that attention all on Troi, Cupid's Dagger does a pretty good job of spreading the attention around.
Yeah. Ed and Kelly, usually they have a conflict of they were once attracted to each other, so maybe they will be again, and they're divorced, so they don't like each other. So there's like this positive or negative romantic link between them, and this puts it at a perpendicular, so they're competing with each other.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's not often you're going to get a broken up couple to compete with each other. Well, I guess Star Trek brings in third genders in a general species sometimes.
Yeah, you have to get a little gay to do that, generally speaking. And I appreciate this episode shows Mercer being susceptible to Darulio's effects, despite the fact that he's a guy, and then you put a man and a woman in romantic competition. Like, I'm a little irked at Mercer's sudden descent into homosexual stereotypes just because he wants to have sex with a guy. And they have the labels conversation, which is a belabored way of not gay folks saying how cool they are with gays. But like, they could have had any other conversation at all and it would have been funny, but it feels like the joke is that Mercer's acting gay, and I feel like this series can do better jokes than that.
Right. Being cis-het white, I read that scene as Mercer descending into Valley Girl stereotypes, which was kind of funny. But I don't know how close those are to homosexual stereotypes.
I think they pull from the same effeminate well, and I think that's probably a fair reading of it as well on your end. But you pointed this out, that if they'd made Malloy gay, that would have added a lot of depth to things.
Yeah, having him on the receiving end of that conversation is, I don't know how often that happens to you, but I think it would do something new with the character that, as far as I can tell, is the one character we haven't seen any romances from yet this season.
You're right, and Malloy seems like the type of guy that would have some romance. Not classy romances, but like Tinder romances or whatever. Like trailer park stuff. So, but like it isn't just about Malloy and Ed and Kelly. Like, it goes to the rest of the crew as well this episode.
Yeah, we even get scenes with all of the secondary characters, I think. Bortus, Clyde, and their baby show up. We get to see some of the strife, marital strife, divorce strife. Are they going to get divorced? Yeah. Is that what we're seeing? We have a divorced couple, one troubled couple. We don't have a happy couple yet.
It's an ongoing story. And I like that. And we also get to see kind of the Bortus's weird hook to the tiny day in the life scenes where they want Bortus to sing.
Oh yeah, that was great. I'm kind of sad we did not actually hear Bortus sing. It was a great gag cutting off right there, though. And a great callback to Data's various performances in Next Generation.
And while, Data's performances could sometimes be hit or miss in terms of honestly enjoyable / cringe-inducing, and his Felis Catus poem and his stand-up comedy routine being good examples of that. They cut away because I think the reality of what they could have done may have fallen short of our expectation of Bortus singing.
And they're building up expectations, I think, with Alara. I don't know what direction they're going to take it eventually, but she does seem to have some attention for Ed, like when she's prying into what Kelly tells her about. And then she's also prying into Darulio's relationship with Kelly and Ed in the hallway, which makes her seem like kind of a gossip or a busybody. And then at the beginning of the episode, when she's talking to the guy in the cargo bay,
right.
Do they have a gossip for the head of security? This is a wonderful new dimensions, but
I mean, it gives her a little bit of characterization. But yeah, we learn as a way of expositing for us in the audience that who Darulio is, because she talks to this shuttle bay operator, and she's like, "How do you know who he is?" And he's like, "You told me." So I guess she talks to people on the ship about the captain and Exo's failed marriage.
Which is another good bit of slice of life.
Yeah. I like it when this show does that. The show's pretty good at that.
And apparently a big slice of their life for the past month has been Yaphit making regular trips to sickbay to woo Dr. Finn.
Yeah. It's always so weird when like an amorphous blob is interested in a human. Like, what is it about this human that catches your sensory organs? I don't know.
It could be the pheromones.
It could be the pheromones. I like Yaphit though. I like Finn.
If I remember right, technically you like Norm and you are unimpressed with Finn.
I mean, yeah. I see the potential in Finn, but I do like Norm Macdonald, yeah.
I feel a little weird that our best Yaphit episode is one where it's basically an ensemble episode with all these other characters, all these secondary characters getting their token scenes. And we do get a lot more from Yaphit here. But it seems like a fully 3D animated character is tough to do for a weekly or almost weekly show.
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive, I'm sure. But I mean, it's so worth it to get Norm Macdonald's character in there doing cool stuff.
Yeah, if we had to stuff Yaphit into like a cat carrier or a spacesuit or something, just so that we could have him on more, I'd be okay with that, I think.
I'd be great, like a big encounter suit with like one glass bubble in the front they can put a little bit of like goo animation into. So like Norm Macdonald run it. I think it'd be great.
If it had like 3 arms or just 1 arm, or 3 legs or something.
Yeah, a little hole in the side and he can pop a tentacle out as needed to do a little extra stuff. If that's cheaper for him, you know?
Yeah. Right, so did I talk about Yaphit being Geordie before?
I think not that I recall.
Alright, so people want to say Lamar is Geordie, but he's not. Geordie's defining characteristics, as I recall them, were his hopeless romances, his technical capabilities, and that his eyes are basically blocked all the time, so he has to do all his acting with his voice and mouth, which, to his credit, Norm seems to be nearly as good as LeVar Burton.
I wouldn't go that far. Norm's good, though. Norm's good. I can definitely see the parallels between the two of them. Because you do get a lot of expressions out of Yaphit in this episode. His crestfallenness, his excitement, everything. I mean, he literally takes Dr. Finn into his like intimate space and shows her his innermost self.
And then they go back to the sickbay for some reason, which I didn't really understand.
I don't know. I assume that was a couple hours later.
Sure. But wandering around the ship seems, I don't know.
Yeah, it's you don't logically follow the movement of those characters. No. But it's all because of Darulio. And
yeah,
it's weird, but this feels like, usually we'd say this is a Mercer episode or this is an Alara episode, but this is kind of a Darulio episode.
It is. He's got none of our characters. I guess you could maybe say Alara learned something about being security. We see her actually like do and achieve things, but really Darulio is the only one who learns any kind of lesson here.
And I don't know if our story requires our main characters to learn something in every episode or to even have an arc per se.
I don't think so. This episode is fast paced enough, it's fun enough that we can get by without it.
Yeah, I mean it is well paced. Like it's got an interesting idea in it, not about pheromones or interstellar politics, but about responsibility and critically examining actions which benefit you in Darulio's case, getting him laid because he's roofying people basically. It's date rape. It's pheromone
pretty
rape.
Crazy,
it's not,
yeah. That's It's amazing that he has never come into any situation before now where it has turned out badly for him.
Yeah, he should be on medication and he should like warn people of his condition. He should have like a little breathing mat. I don't know, just something where he's like, I'm in heat. I'm emitting pheromones. Let's just be careful now.
And he comes off like such a nice guy, but he is an expert manipulator. Every scene he's in, like the very first, when he first comes on the ship, he's the one who shakes Ed and Kelly's hands, infecting them. And then every movement after that is to get them closer and more intoxicated.
Yeah, I mean, he very much loves the attention and he leads them on, and he has no kind of cognizance that what they're doing is of massive importance, that what he's doing is wrong, or that it could have consequences, which is just the thing he learns in this episode.
Yeah, I kind of like him as a Harry Mudd type character, where what he's doing could be interpreted as evil. This is how you do an evil Mudd, Star Trek Discovery.
Not a weird bearded psychopath.
Unless the weird bearded psychopath is secretly a Klingon. But
the question you brought up, which was a good question about Darulio in the ending of this episode, is if he's sketchy and manipulative and selfish, could he have just faked the DNA on the planet?
Especially, like, as you said, he basically roofied the two chief delegates into their agreement, which, as we've seen, is temporary.
Those diplomats are going to come to, and assuming they don't pretend like it was all on purpose to save face, they're going to say, you roofied us into having sex with each other, which is some kind of sexual assault you need a freaking whiteboard to describe. And then they're going to say the Union roofied us for peace, so the Union would do anything for peace. So who we thought was a neutral party is now completely untrustworthy. And it seems like you defeat yourself utterly with these things.
At the beginning of the episode, the Union Admiral said that this was the ideal outcome. So, I mean, with as careless as Darulio is, I think there's a genuine chance he did forge the DNA link. I mean, I don't think it's particularly likely. I'd put it 1 in 6 maybe. But it's there and it's significant.
In text, I don't think it was intended, but maybe Darulio wasn't a rogue. Maybe the Darulio is like, hey, oh, you guys want me to do what? To do everything? Okay. And then he's just there to like mess things up and get people high on pheromones and make sure peace happens.
Yeah.
So, because it doesn't matter, because he's going to come up with the DNA outcome is foregone.
Part of the ensemble cast in this is another character we don't see a lot of, the elevator guy. I'm sure he has a name, but he's shown up in a couple of episodes, and I get the feeling he's going to be the morale officer, like what's his name from Voyager?
Neelix.
I don't know if he's going to go postal or end up being an undercover krill or something, or an undercover krill that goes postal from too much contact with these Union people. I feel like that's another slow burn thing.
I like his character. I like his interactions. I like how he eases the tension.
He's good for a gag every so often, yeah.
Yeah, I like his was it 3 scenes in this show he has? It's good.
So, how is that sweet elevator music going to carry us into the future?
My initial thought is that there's no good pitch from this episode. But if we are going to do hackneyed sitcom plots, Malloy and Grayson, they start seeing people on the virtual web, okay? So from our omniscient view, we immediately think that they're seeing each other because they're like little clues, right? Mm-hmm. And we think they're being drawn together by the same things that initially drew them to Mercer, because they have to have commonalities there. So they go to like the virtual web hub planet, like as part of a mission or whatever. So they're going to meet up with these people they're talking to, and they figured out that it's each other. And so Malloy is there, and like he's got flowers in hand because like he just figures it out, but he has enough time to like plan out lines to Grayson about how awkward this is. Maybe he's like, oh, I haven't dated a woman who cheated on me and tear out my heart since junior high, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And Grayson's like, oh, my marriage fell apart because my husband was too focused on his career, and you don't have that problem. So like they get to plan those little barbs out.
You don't have that problem.
But it turns out the people they were dating are like living hologram guys, and they're like projected from little Roombas because that's hilarious. And they are their own virtual web avatars, and they're genuinely interested in Grayson and Malloy. And it's a lesson about how people in virtual space are real people. And so you get the romance and the comedy and the stuff. I think it'd be fine.
That sounds like a pretty complete episode. If I had a B plot, I think I would make it a general shore leave episode. Maybe there's some mission that Mercer has to take care of. So he's actually away on business. Yaphit refuses to go down to whatever this station is. Digital Pleasure Planet, whatever. Because he's too broken up over being rejected by Finn. Bortus and Clyden, they go down. I don't really care why. They just want to have a date. And they end up being confused or repulsed by all these alien dating things. And I don't know if that's going to be a wedge between them or if it's going to be a
wedge which joins them.
Yes, that. If it is a virtual web hub planet, it would be amazing for somebody to go down and get a virus. Isaac is the most obvious for that. It's going to be super hard not to resist having Isaac get a virus.
It would be hilarious to take the proper, condescending, precise Isaac and you put him into a robot cat house.
Oh, that would be great. I was trying to figure out who to do that to. That would make so much sense.
Isaac would be ideal for that.
If this is a episode about virtual people being real people, I feel like whether or not we do it, the Orville would probably want to touch on internet misanthropy, which probably means harassment of someone for being you aren't X enough or you're too X or general nonsense. And I don't know who's enough of a puppy to throw that at.
I mean, the first thought is Alara, always.
Right, but
Alara gets a lot thrown at her in this series.
Yeah.
But I think the positive side of that, or maybe you could just have Malloy and Grayson think that the other person is each other, and then throw crap at them because of it, and then it turns out they're real people.
Ooh, that would hurt. That could work.
Yeah, and they've hurt real people. Which is, it's a little bit of an occluded lesson in that case, because they're still assuming the person on the other end is a person, but just not the person they thought they were. So maybe that works. You think you know things about people online, but you don't actually.
Yeah.
So all those assumptions are just you being jerks to people who are innocent of what you think they're doing.
I'm just picturing all of the Futurama internet episodes as we talk about this. Feels much more like a Futurama episode than your average Star Trek episode.
Yeah, with the virtual web thing, that would be, because then they'd probably be pretty heavy on the effects, honestly. Unless you just, take a bunch of boxes and put them in fluorescent covering and put UV light on it so it kind of glows luminescently. And Malloy's so this is the virtual web. It looks kind of like a cheap set from the 60s. And you just lampshade it just as a way to do it cheap.
Oh my God. What if they actually did do a cheap set from the 60s, something from The Prisoner?
See, they could do that. I mean, I think the Prisoner sets are... I'm trying to figure out the real inside sets. I could see that, yeah. I was thinking about the location shots at the Port Mirror. Anyway, I think we're over time.
And from the 60s, we close with the Pina Colada song for Bortus and Clyden. Oh, since this episode started with karaoke, it should close with them doing karaoke. Pina Colada song.
I pitched that as an alternate plot in the notes because I'm I can't spin an episode. I can't pitch anything out of this. So the plot would be basically the plot of the Pina Colada song. Two people in a relationship are unhappy, so they take out personal ads to cheat on their significant others, and they answer it. And when they show up at the end, it's the person they were already in a relationship with, but they've actually learned things about each other through the personal ads. So
I could see that as a B plot for Bortus and Clyden.
Exactly.
They go down to have a date and then they keep taking different dates or different whatever's climbing a rock wall or something. The point is, I do think it'd be great to end the episode with Bortus and Clyden singing the two parts of the song.
It'd be a good way to put a cap on the stuff in this episode too. I didn't think about literally the song, but you're right. That makes perfect sense.
Start with Malloy and Grayson at different tables in the same club, and then you just pan past them to Bortus and Clyden.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the twist on this is that Malloy and Grayson's dates end up dating each other once Malloy and Grayson screw things
have
up.
both of them dumped.
Yeah, right. And the two Roombas just head off together, happy as heck with their hologram people. So, yeah. But
and then Grayson and Malloy don't end up dating after that because,
of course not.
Or the episode just ends before we figure it out. But
they could still hang out with each other. They could still, be miserable together for the end of the episode. Because they're not people who are strangers. They used to know each other. So yeah, I think that's our pitch. I think it's one of our better ones. Yeah.
But for purposes of this recording for now, bye.
Goodbye.